Hey everybody, welcome to Myopia Movies. This week we start a new theme month. The whole time we're going to be doing Alfred Hitchcock classics. And frankly, it was a lot of fun. Some of these movies I'd seen many times, some of them I'd never seen before. All of them you kind of know. This is one of those directors that everyone kind of rips off, but frankly, sitting down watching something classy is just delightful. Thank you for doing all you do to support us, and we hope you enjoy probably the first one I saw of the Hitchcock universe, and one of my favorite movies, just ever. Please enjoy as we talk about Psycho. Thanks, everybody. Welcome to Myopia Movies. This week we're watching Psycho. I don't know, man.
Are you trying to be Alfred Hitchcock or Sideshow Bob?
Well, Sideshow Bob's a little deeper. It's Hitchcock, right? Hello there. Alfred Hitchcock.
We need to do a side shot of the cheeks.
I hope my belly's not that big. This week we're talking Psycho, the movie that makes you not want to take a shower. It made me a bath man. I am today. I'm your host, Nick Hoffman. On the panel we've got
Keiko.
Alex.
Atlanta author Matthew W. Quinn. Check out my new book, The Walking Worm. There are no showers.
No one bathes in the entire book.
Shower free.
Wow.
I will just go out and say this. Not only have I seen this movie before, I'd seen it many times, and I believe it was the first Hitchcock film I ever saw. Is it anyone's first time seeing this movie?
Yeah.
Me.
All the way through, yes.
Really? Oh, this will be delightful then. I will go ahead and just guess that the ending had been spoiled from Looney Tunes or from The Simpsons or from Saturday Night Live.
No
way!
I was like wiffle waffling while watching the movie. Like, at first I was like, oh, it's him. And then I was like, spoiler alert. But yeah, but it was really interesting watching it not knowing, because I was like, well, but now wait a minute, because every time they give you the new twist, you're like, oh, well, actually, okay, so yeah.
I was ready for the chair to swivel around. I knew it was coming. I think there's another one of those movies I've probably seen.
By that point I did.
Right. I've probably seen most segments of this movie, just not sequentially at once.
Yeah, I didn't expect the last 15 to 20 minutes of the movie to have a whole discussion about psychology.
I thought
the reveal was the end of the movie.
It would have made sense, but I kind of like the explanation, because I think there were probably test screenings where people were like that cop. Oh, he's just a cross-dresser, right? And so we have that explainer. Right. But I do like the very TV show ending of the end coming up as they're pulling the car out.
Yeah.
Like that, I don't want to say it's chilling, but it also shows the callousness with the fact that he doesn't care. Like, the money didn't matter. None of this mattered. It was just this impulse to kill the women.
Yeah,
the
mom took over. Yeah, I mean, the explainer at the end, I was just thinking, for a 1960s audience, I could totally see it. They needed a little come down after something that probably was pretty shocking to see in theaters in 1960. And they might have needed that. We don't need that, because we've had decades and decades of entertainment like Psycho that prepare us for the twists and turns and things like that.
But instead we had Silence of the Lambs.
Well, yes, but
come on, mother. But is she a big fat mother?
Oh, the blood.
And that's where Alex faints. As we discussed earlier.
No fading.
But I will also just toss out there, this might also be the most influential movie we've ever done. Because every shot for it has been ripped off by someone else. Every reference has been ripped off by someone else. And this is made on a shoestring budget. Anyone who says we don't have the money to do what we want, bullshit. This is almost filmed like a TV show. And it's just as effective as if it was one of his big productions like North by Northwest.
Yeah, this movie reminded me of a Twilight Zone episode, just a lot longer and frankly less scary.
Oh, we'll take this beat for beat, of course. But I think something we can start off with is something that Matt texted me, which is this score is amazing. And I mean, the way you put it was,
everyone rips this off. Like, this is one of the most, I think you said, influential scores we've done.
Well, I don't know if I said that. I thought you said that, but I liked it because it's like all violins that are suggestive of stabbing.
Yeah.
Like very harsh.
And it starts with that too. Like the movie starts with that like shrill kind of beat.
It prepares you a little bit.
Yeah, it puts you on edge from the very beginning.
And it's funny because you don't know what, we'll talk about, I'm so jealous of you, Keiko, and Matt, because I've seen this movie so many times, I can't even remember what it was like to see it the first time, right? And so for you to see it for the first time, holy cow, I just hope that now that we're doing a whole month of this, you appreciate Hitchcock a little bit, because he's kind of the master of these movies.
Yeah, no, I told you that there was a reason why I put off watching these movies, because I thought they were just all like jump scares and just like terror. And I think I described like what I imagined the birds is a bird sitting in a field and then a woman looking at it like, and then it goes to the bird and the bird's like, and the woman's like, and then the bird, and it's
if
like,
only
that's
this
like,
was on video, Keiko's facial expressions are hilarious.
I'm really good as the bird.
Well, it's you're like describing like a French post-realist film, like then the woman smoking a cigarette.
Yeah, and then
goes,
you see the ashes fall.
Or-
and like, you
Okay,
know.
what's that director that Daniel likes? You know, Herzog.
Yeah,
and
Herzog.
and the bird is all of us. And the bird.
Yeah, no,
and the
that's
bird.
really, that's like what I thought. I didn't realize that Hitchcock movies are mood pieces. Yeah. Like it's really to make you feel the things,
yeah,
and the suspense is, it's just so well done.
Yeah, Vertigo I think was supposed to be a mood piece about obsession and stuff.
Yeah.
And is this a mood piece about something?
No, I mean, this is based on a true story, of course.
That was based on a book.
Which is based on a true story. This is Ed Gein.
But was I thought Ed Gein was later than this.
No, this is based on Ed Gein.
And that was actually something that I had written down about this. Is we talked about this movie being very controversial for its time because of what it showed.
So much, yeah.
Like a toilet, which is
a toilet.
But
and
also,
naked Janet Leigh getting chopped up. While we saw
the toilet, we saw a lady being like brutally murdered. But this was like the heyday of serial killers in the U.S. Yeah. And I don't know the exact timing, so I would be curious to know. Like Nick, you probably know off the top of your head where this.
Yeah, tell us about all the serial killers.
But this was the time when and I don't know. Like we had Jeffrey Dahmer, we had.
John Wayne Gacy.
Yeah. Those are the 70s.
Like,
oh, okay.
The Mansons. The Mansons late 60s.
Those are 60s.
What? Who is?
So
was Jeffrey Dahmer the one?
Jeffrey
in Florida?
Dahmer was the 90s. I remember that when I was a little kid.
That's oh god.
Ted Bundy.
Ted Bundy.
Yep.
Ted Bundy.
Yeah, and then there was the Gainesville Ripper, but he was later. He was in the 80s.
And there's the Atlanta child murders and stuff.
Yeah.
At this point, what we have, Ed Gein is in the late 50s. 1963 is when we have the guy in the University of Texas who climbs up the tower and starts sniping people from the bell tower. We have in this time period the actual development of the idea of a serial killer, because it was thought in the 1920s that people would only kill people that they knew well, and that murders had to be done with
emotion
to family members and neighbors and emotions and ex-girlfriends and ex-husbands.
Yeah, true crimes of passion.
Right, like, and that's why it took them so long to crack the Black Dahlia, because she had so many relationships and they wanted to say, oh, she was just someone who was a floozy. And so with Ed Gein, who literally like was digging up corpses, it didn't make sense. And that's why we start to develop this idea and that's why we had the psychological primer at the end. And then this is the beginning of the tidal wave. And by the time we get to the 70s, there are so many murders in America that it's actually hard to keep track.
Do you think this movie inspired serial killers?
I don't think it inspired them. I think it made people aware of them.
Oh, some people think the mythology of the werewolf was inspired by serial killers.
Taking the Wendigo.
Not that maybe that too, but the idea of a human becoming a predator.
Yeah, I believe it.
So and maybe the reason you never knew about serial killers before is that you're in the peasant village. They find a guy with a bunch of bodies under his bed. They just lynch him.
Yeah, I just
there's
feel
no,
like,
there's no record or sentence. They just kill the guy.
I feel like this was a time when the serial killers were it was like people were like afraid of it. Like people were afraid of a serial killer, like sort of like Jack the Ripper, where you were like, it's not say like there are killers out there, that kind of thing.
So the media blows everything up.
Well, but it's also, this is the America of the man in the gray flannel suit. It's very conservative, very buttoned down, and any sort of aberration is weird. And that's why the first response is, oh, he's just a transsexual or a transvestite, right? Like, it's because, oh, of course gay people are murderers, right? Just no, I mean,
He's different.
Well,
Yeah.
that's the way the Red Scare went too. McCarthyism, like all these gay people were rounded up and, accused of being communist just because they were gay. And so there's that aspect of it as well, and that's why someone like John Wayne Gacy is so important. Not important, but like, because he was an upstanding member of society. He was a member of the Chamber of Commerce. He was a contractor. He was not only a member of the Democratic Party, but he met Rosalind Carter. Like, there's a picture of him with Rose Carter. I mean, in the same way that Ted Bundy was a young Republican. They had even asked him to run for mayor. Like these were people who were seen as upstanding good. He worked on a suicide crisis helpline. In fact, the woman who wrote the first true crime book about Ted Bundy worked with him on a suicide hotline. But remember, for someone like them, it's all about control. So it makes sense almost, because those two were people who were in control of their actions. Jeffrey Dahmer was someone who had to drink until he was blacked out drunk in order to do what he did. And that's why Ed Gein is so fascinating. That's why, in this case, Norman Bates is interesting, because it's that twitchiness. It's that he loses control of himself without any stimulant, without any drug. He's just out of his mind.
It's also interesting because he is very charming. Like, the actor, the way he's portrayed, he's very likable.
He's delightful.
Like
truly.
Who is that actor?
Anthony Perkins.
Who is he? What does he do?
Well, he's been dead for a while.
Well,
Yeah,
okay,
no shit.
Cool. No, but like when he was alive, what did he do?
Well, so after this, I mean, he was a well-respected actor. I mean, after this movie came out, he did have some trouble with typecasting. He went to Europe after this and made some pretty good films.
He actually as bad guys?
Well, I don't think necessarily. I think he had a bunch of
stop being bad.
Yeah. He was like, I don't need to be Norman Bates for every role I'm cast in. Now, we did do Psycho 2 and Psycho 3.
Psycho 2 is a lot of fun.
Yeah, apparently it's
I will
okay.
toss that out there. Yeah, it's not a Hitchcock film, but it's a lot.
Right. Yeah, it was like
I didn't-
1983 or something like that.
He gets, essentially, I watched it this year for the first time, so I'm not going to pretend like I'm an expert in it. But he essentially gets out of prison, and the sister who helps solve the crime at the end.
Oh yeah, Lila.
She-
Yeah.
She is terrified that he's out of prison. So she and her daughter now are trying to make him act crazy so he'll get rearrested. And that's the whole premise of it.
Wow.
And it's cool because it's the opposite. Like, what I appreciate is that they didn't try. It's like, have you seen 2001: A Space Odyssey?
Yes.
Have you
Been a
seen-
while, but yes.
Have you seen 2010?
No, I haven't seen that one yet.
Well, my point is, they didn't try to do a Hitchcock movie. He did something completely different with the Psycho 2, and therefore it's okay. If he tried to be like, well, I'm the next Hitchcock.
Yeah.
If it was M. Night Shyamalan, it would have been terrible, right? Like, and so they just completely threw it out the window and said, we're going to do an interesting story with Norman Bates and the same set, but it's not going to look like a Hitchcock film. We've been talking for 20 minutes. Does someone want to give us a plot synopsis?
Okay, so it begins with a
It begins with sex.
yeah, it kind of does.
Yeah, like
Indeed.
pretty.
So,
Pretty-
sorry, I'm going to stop you already.
We'll get back to your
What
synopsis, Matt.
for me?
No. You said, I forget what you exactly said, but you mentioned the word haze. This is still the era of the Hays Code, so you couldn't show sexuality in any way. I don't know why you said haze, but it triggered in my head.
Well, it's very Hays Cody in the way that the villains, the bad people, are punished.
No, and there's no nudity. There's no sex. They're not in bed together, but it's so clear sex has happened because he's sitting there with his shirt off and it's like in a pile on the floor.
Yeah.
And she's with the most conical of bras.
They're real mussed up.
They had sex for lunch. And it's very clear
Yeah,
they had
there's
sex for lunch.
yeah, it's definitely what the more modern parlance a nooner.
Little afternoon
Look at
delight.
you. Look at you learning sex parlance from your high school students.
Well, I first heard that several years ago, probably before most of those kids were born.
Good.
I was wondering if people still use the term, actually.
A nooner.
I've never heard of that.
I think maybe sparingly.
What is it?
It's just a
Lunch
nooner
break, when
at
you
noon,
hook up during
break.
lunch break.
What do you do at lunch?
What?
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
I'm giving you the
I get it.
You have
I
a
get it.
pastrami sandwich and a cream soda.
Ew.
I'm even cheaper than that. I just have peanut butter.
Gross.
No, I'm not going to name a food. I'm not going to name any types of foods or beverages.
I'll just have water. So that's cool. So they do that, and then what, Matt?
Okay, and
7 seconds into the movie.
and they talk about money because it sounds like he's inherited a bunch of his dad's debt and is basically living in the back of the store he works at.
Yeah.
And he owes alimony payments to his ex-wife. So she wants to get married, but he did not know financial shape to do that, which is that and the fact that the client with all the money and cash are going to meet later is such a bore. Leads to the kind of film noir plot involving a lot of money.
Okay, let's stop here. Because this movie has 3 distinct parts, and they're very distinct. So rather than do a whole synopsis, I think we should stop. So the woman Matt is talking about is the late, great Janet Leigh, who is the star. And we've talked about this in the last couple movies we've done, but Hitchcock has the blonde type. Literally, the character is usually called a Hitchcock blonde, and she is kind of the quintessential Hitchcock blonde in that way. But like the whole thing is that she wants to be with this guy, he wants to be with her, but because of the alimony payments and all this 1950s sexual politics, they can't be together. And then this big Texan comes in and sexually harasses her, which is just phenomenal. Not don't sexually harass people with your Texas hat, but just like the way this guy comes in, like, Lordy, it's so hot today, and the boss is the only room with air conditioning, which is a real go fuck yourself to the women who work in the front. But the woman who's the secretary, the one who goes, oh, he didn't flirt with me at all. I read about flirting in books. He must have seen my wedding ring. That's Hitchcock's daughter. And he goes, I like the idea that he goes, oh, my daughter is so homely. Let's just make a joke at your expense. Like,
I did not realize that.
Because she says something in response to that. She says like, oh, I'm sure that's what it was. Like,
yeah, again, it's like I've read about it's. So when I was in college, I dated a girl who called Cosmo the Bible. Right, it's that kind of a thing, right? She's just like, oh, that was flirting. It was on page 93 of this episode.
Yeah,
between the ad and the other.
It's
ad.
like what girls are always told is that if you play with your hair, you're sending them, or even if you touch your hair, you're sending a message to the person that you like them. And I'm like, no, I think it means I'm neurodivergent and I hate freaking hair and I hate having it on me. And like, I just like, it's up in a bun right now.
No,
but
that's why I do this all the time. Okay.
You're flirting with all of us.
I mean,
Have you seen Alex's hair?
Alex touches his hair all the time.
I am sort of neurotic in that I really do kind of touch my hair
So
all the time.
flirty.
I really like
You
all
flirt
of you
too
guys.
much.
You guys are, yeah, I know.
Well, that's because Alex and I have an unspoken thing.
That's right. It's just the touch of the hair and we know.
Anyway, so
Yeah,
that's flirting. Oh, and like batting your eyes. That used to be a thing where you like rapidly blink at people.
Yeah,
Like,
a friend of mine's little daughter was trying to ask her dad, when you and mom were dating, did she bat her eyes and she's just basically blinking rapidly at him?
yeah.
Like blink, blink, blink,
Yeah,
blink,
yeah,
blink.
yeah.
She's like
Trying
4.
to learn
so
how to
cute.
wink was the most adorable
Oh,
thing.
yeah.
She was like,
Yeah.
can I do it? I'm like, sure. And it's funny because I don't know if I'm paralyzed on one side or not, but I can only wink my right eye, not my left eye.
Do the other one. Oh, you just did. Wait.
I can't do it on its own. I can only do my right one. Are you flirting with me here?
Actually, I flirted with you, then him, then you, then him.
It's understandable.
And
Anyway,
no one cares about me.
Here.
Because so what happens is she's like, the Texan comes in and is like, I'm a big like it's literally the Texan from The Simpsons. He shows up.
This is like the modern equivalent of guys sending you like inappropriate messages as their very first like message that they send you, you know?
No, it is.
Like in it, because he's like they just like throw it at the wall, see what sticks. Like you got a husband, like that kind of like.
He like sits
what
on her
girl's gonna be
desk
like,
and starts
no.
bloviating.
Yeah.
So I'm a South African who owns an electric car company.
Don't make me rage.
That's what you were doing, not taking a shit on my chair. No. Anyway, so he goes, my daughter's about to get married, and I would like to buy her a house. I don't want to lose any money that I can't lose. So here's $40,000.
Yeah, and he basically admits that he doesn't report all his income.
Well, tax evasion aside, or tax avoidance aside, the funny thing is she's like, go fuck yourself. And my favorite part of it is later on, we'll get to it in a second, but she has conversations in her head about what's going on. And she's just so self-satisfied about stealing this man's money. And guess what? At this point in the movie, she's kind of the hero. And I kind of love it. Because again, she's like, she takes the money and she goes, look, little Hitchcock, I've got a little bit of a headache from all of that sex I had at lunch. So I'm going to go home today, but I'll drop off the money at the bank on the way. And then she realizes that $40,000 is enough to keep her dalliances going, pay off the ex-wife's debt, and therefore they can start their life together. And she hits the road, right? And we'll hit the twist here in a second, but as a starlet, this is phenomenal. Janet Leigh is a powerhouse here. And she drives along the road. She drives till she falls asleep. The chips... right? Catcher, California Highway Patrol.
Yeah, Officer Beefsteak Face.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Officer Chest Fist, like pulls her over and like looks at her and goes, you fell asleep on the side of the road because I'm from Brooklyn, apparently.
It's a kind of a strange interaction. Like,
because she's giving off I am guilty vibes
Yeah.
like hell, but he can't pin anything on her, so he just kind of stares a lot.
Well, and the thing about Janet Leigh here is she is so good in this, right? Like, she is playing guilty. She is playing confident. She is the alpha female here. Like, because what she's doing, and we can point this out all day long, but Hitchcock is doing subtle things. She has early on, when she's having lunch with her like Romeo, she's wearing a white bra and a white panties and everything because what she's doing is good. She's wearing white. When she steals the money and goes home and packs her bags, all that she's packing are black clothes, right? Because she's become the villain.
it's a black
Right?
now.
Like literally she goes into her drawer, and I'm thinking of 10 things I hate about you, but she grabs the black bra and puts it in her luggage, right? Because you want black. You want a
It's her
black bra
villain era.
because you want people to see it, right? Like that's the whole point.
Oh yeah, I read that in Cosmo.
It's read in Cosmo.
The Bible.
And so it's so interesting because when she drives into California Charlie, the guy who's going to sell her the car, her license plate is white. And then when she buys the new car, the license plate is black. It's film semiotics. It's so good. She's doing something bad. And then, you know what? It's a black and white movie, which we haven't mentioned, but it's the 1960s. It's 1960 on the nose. There were color movies at the time. There's been color movies
Wasn't
since
this
the Ten Commandments.
His last black and white movie.
Yes, but he made it black and white on purpose. He could have done it in color. I think it works better in black and white. It's much creepier. As Matt said earlier, it's a noir. How great is that? And so it turns black. The lighting is darker in the car. And the cop shows up to talk to California Charlie. And he goes, this is the first time a buyer has ever pressured the salesman.
Yeah.
How great is that? I love this movie. I'm sorry, I'm going to fawn over it the whole time. Meanwhile, Bernard Herrmann is having his strings just go. and by the way, the stabbing music is the best music ever because you can close your eyes and think of it. We're going to do another movie tonight as we record, and I've told you guys this before if you listen. We do 2 at a time. Superman is what we're going to do. And da 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 da, Superman. It's every time, and yet this
Super stab.
dude. And yet, this is the super stab score. Every time you want to stab someone, even in Saw 16. Jing, jing, jing,
I
jing.
know. I play this every time I stab someone.
So there I was grading papers, and all of a sudden it went do 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 do.
Yeah, Keiko posts a lot of pictures of her barbecue rubs. I wonder who that was.
You'll never know.
Dun 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 dun. Former podcast.
We got a fried green tomato situation here.
Anyway,
Barbecued salesman who just won't take the hint.
It's mostly birds. Oh, if it was that, it would be roof people.
oh, I've seen that movie, The Birds, where you just look at someone, they look at the bird, the cigarette gets smoked, the ash falls, then you stab a bird 17 times.
And then it's just a little
And then
chunk
the
of...
colonel shows up and he goes, Keiko, would you like a chicken sandwich?
It sounds like a fever dream of mine.
Well, I was watching a lot of Twin Peaks recently, so it's just backwards. It's like a chicken sandwich or Keiko.
You know what I dreamt the other night? This is off topic.
I'd love you to tell us.
But it was really weird. So I dreamt that my left hand had, this is gross, had like worms, like yucky, like parasite, like thin, long worms in it. And I was having to pull them all out one by one. What do you think of that?
How long did that go on?
That
That was my whole dream.
That
my.
sounds like like you're in Facebook or something, and that's like an app, like one of those ads for an app, like
Like a soothing thing.
Dr. Pimple Popper was a
I
soothing
actually
thing.
did do that for one of my first Valentines with Chris. I made him a card that is like I designed it in like Adobe or something and printed
Sure.
it, but it was a giant scab on the front of the card, and it was Velcro, and I had him take it off, and then when you open the card up, it says I'm glad you picked me. It's really good.
Well, that's delightful.
Anyway, that's all.
uh,
Do we want to
moving
talk about psychos or?
After leaving California Charlie with her new car, Janet Leigh ends up driving along until it gets dark and she starts getting dozy again. And the last time she got dozy, the cop pulled her over. So she decides to pull up to the Bates Motel. And again, if you've seen this movie the first time, you know probably what's happening. But for me, who's seen it before, I'm just like, the movie's getting going. Because let's be clear here, and this is the part I need to emphasize. She is a star at this point, and not like a huge star, but it would be like maybe today's equivalent of like Melissa McCarthy. Everyone knows who she is. She's someone who people know, or Tina Fey. Like she's a decent star. You're like, oh, she's going to be the person in this movie the whole time.
Nope.
And when she shows up at the Bates Motel, you're like, okay, whatever's going to happen, she's going to figure. To use the modern parlance, I think developed by John Carpenter, she's going to be the last girl. She's going to be the one who figures this damn thing out. And then we meet Norman Bates. She pulls it and he goes, you know, there's 12 rooms and there's 12 vacancies. I'll give you cabin number 1 so that I can help you. And we established this because it looks like a run-of-the-mill motel. It's just 12 rooms in a row. And up on the hill is this kind of incredible Gothic house. And because I'm the age I am, it looks like something the Addams family would live in, right? And we see nothing going on anywhere. So she honks the horn in this driving rainstorm in Southern California, which is absolutely impossible. And all of a sudden we see this shadowy figure run downstairs, and he runs to the front desk and he goes, 12 vacancies, 12 rooms. What can I do for you? And again, I want you and Matt to describe this because I've seen this so many times.
so-
I want your first impulse.
So-
Yeah, the vibe I get off Norman Bates is sinister dork
I don't.
because he's.
I mean,
I've unfortunately started to wonder
I think he has
because he's so awkward. It's either endearing or creepy.
I found him to be super charming until they're like, so that, you know, whatever, they chit chat And then he invites her to dinner, and he's like, "Oh, but don't worry, it's just sandwiches. It's nothing fancy, you know." And she's like, "Okay, cool." You
Sandwiches and milk.
Yeah, sandwiches and
what
milk.
a nice young boy.
And then he had to go
Good
prepare
young
it.
Boy.
But so then after they chat, the only time it gets creepy is he makes a reference to her eating like a bird, and then he immediately changes the topic of conversation to how he loves to taxidermy birds. And I was like, well, that's kind of suspicious.
He has 3 of the best lines in cinema ever, and 2 of them just came up, which is, he talks about his mother, and he says, and he goes, so what's going on? Like, who do you live with? She goes, like, my mother's up there. And he goes, a boy's best friend is his mother, which is unsettling.
But true.
Yeah.
I have 2 baby boys, so.
He's a man, first of all. He's referring to himself as a boy. There's obviously some Arrested Development situation going on here.
Yeah, and then he gets really defensive when he says basically she's mentally ill,
yeah.
and she's like, well, can you put her in some kind of home, which is like a normal thing that you would ask someone who has an aging, elderly, unwell parent. And he freaks out.
Well, but I was going to say, too, it's her being this alpha female, right? Because she's like, well, why don't you do this? Which in 1960 must have been shocking. And he goes, one of those places where they just look at you through the glass, whatever. And then he has, again, one of the second greatest lines of cinema, which is, we all go a little mad sometimes. And you said early on that he's incredibly charming. And that's why when he finishes the first line, well, a boy's best friend is his mother. It's got this aw shucks G. Willikers, like Dennis the Menace, Leave It to Beaver kind of vibe to it, right? Because again, this is 1960.
Yeah.
The late 50s, it's Papa Knows Best, right? Like, it's this like, oh, gee, well, boy's best friend is his mother. But then when he says, we all go a little mad sometimes, and he's 1,000 miles away, that might be the most terrifying line delivery in all of this, right? Right up to where we get Arbogast, which sounds racist whenever the sheriff says it. Arbogast. When he gets stabbed, he's just like, Mrs. Bates, I'm just looking for you. Oh no! But that idea of him just saying, we all go a little mad sometimes.
Okay, that sounds a little Shining-ish.
Well, but
Pretty
he
shocking.
also, when he describes, or when he gets so upset about her talking about at home, she is, my impression, first time watching, so go easy on me. My impression, she's talking about like an elderly person's home.
Right.
He jumps to an institution, probably, I'm guessing, because he might have some experience with an institution, because he knows, like he said, like they look at you behind, like whatever, like, so I thought that was an interesting way of hinting at that, but not actually revealing it for sure.
No, 100%, because what she's not trying to be is mean. She's trying to be helpful. And the way that he jumps at her is so weird, because again, we haven't even described this guy. Like,
Don't talk about my mama.
right, very much so. Like, he wears his pants not only too high, but awkwardly. He has these like, he's dressed. So when I was a Ute, right, and I'm sure all of us have a story like this, but like, my dad got a bunch of clothes from a friend of his for someone my size, but they were like slightly too big, right? And so when I put on the clothes just to try them out, like there was like one suit, I'm sure it was like for a wedding or something that I got, and it was too big. And my dad said that like it looked like you were wearing clothes for your older brother, right? And I don't have an older brother, but that's the joke. That's what he looks like, right? The jacket's kind of too baggy, and the shoulders are too big, the pants are too high because they're too long for him, and so he's dressed kind of disheveled because his mother always wanted to baby him, so the clothes don't fit like an adult would. Because remember, the only other man we've really seen so far are the cowboy and the dude she was hooking up with, both of which are men, capital M men.
Her boyfriend kind of looks like my husband. I just had to say that.
Well, he's going to solve the crime. You can tell Chris that later. Yeah.
I will. At noon.
At noon.
At nooner. Anyway, I mean, there were a lot of poignant things in their their exchange here. He talks about, we're all in our private traps and none of us can ever get out. I mean, that.
Dude, come on.
I feel like that on
wow.
a day-to-day basis, but
Yeah.
maybe at that time that wouldn't have been such a common thing. I feel like we're much more open with our doom.
Yeah,
I
maybe,
used to
yeah.
feel like that, but thanks to Lexapro, I would like sign up with him
I have
for
a
some
text.
antidepressant.
I have a text in with my doc trying to request some.
Yeah.
And I will also just
hoard 'em.
toss out there, when did they discover that food should be for people? Because, well, and I know it's a comparison because lunch earlier on is getting raw dogged by this dude. And so she hasn't eaten all day.
That's why she's so slim.
I mean, I get it. But dinner is the most disgusting sandwiches of milk I've ever seen. Because again, Norman Bates is nothing if not an innocent, right? Like, it's a sandwich, it's milk. He doesn't even have, because again, this is 1960s Hays Code, but he could still offer her a generic bottle
drink.
that has a
Yeah,
shot.
something.
No, it's milk and American cheese and Wonder Bread. It's the driest sandwich you've ever.
And I mean, it could have been like some candies out of his pocket or something for dessert. Like that's
No, it could have been. It could have been the first In-N-Out burger. It could have been anything from something, but instead it's just the driest sandwich in, like you said earlier, the bird room. He has 3 rooms. There's the bird room, there's the terror room, and there's the chocolate factory. Like, I don't know.
And he's always chomping on some candy or another and offering it to people awkwardly. I guess that just sort of adds to his sort of man-boy, man-child situation going on.
Well, and I also feel like it's not an aspersion. I don't mean it to be, but it feels very like low-level Asperger autism. Like that he has like a nervous tic to chew something constantly. It's an oral fixation. Even because even when he has the sandwich, he's chewing the gum right up until the sandwich and then takes the bite of the sandwich. And it's as though he's keeping the demons at bay, perhaps.
well
Turns out they're demons at bay.
or not. As we
Not for
will
long.
find out 49 minutes into the movie, which this is the thing. So 49 minutes, I checked when she dies. It's 49 minutes into the movie. It's very early. It's like,
Did you see it coming?
yeah, like I knew that she would get killed. And I actually wrote a note down, which is stupid now because I was wrong. But I was like, I'm pretty sure a taxidermist would not stab someone repeatedly because it would ruin your craft.
But like that's the Ed Gein thing, right? Like because he killed the women and then turned them into lady suits.
Yeah, but you wouldn't destroy the skin. You would.
No, I get it. You're right. You're right. But and by the way, he tips his hand. He tells us the whole plot here because he goes, she goes, "Have you taxidermied anything else?" And he goes, "I tried, but it rotted. It didn't keep. So that's why I've stuck to birds ever since." Right. And the whole question is, who killed her? Right. Who killed her? And so who's looking at him the entire time but an owl who only asks who?
Oh.
And the owl is like,
that shot with him. They just keep going back to that shot
Yeah.
with the illuminated taxidermied owl behind him. That is a
incredible.
shot. That is a hell of a shot.
that's where he says a boy's best friend is his mother.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
where he says we all go a little mad sometimes. It would be cold as the grave. Like, he's so good and she's good in this too. But it's so I always point it out when we do these when a movie, he steals every scene he's in. He's especially at the end of the movie because he's acting against a plank of wood with that other dude. According to Hitchcock, let's see if the plank of wood can act. Like he really hates that other guy.
Oh, Sam,
Or
the
someone- yeah, he
actor.
hated
Okay,
Sam Loomis.
all right.
Which, by the way, previous episode, the Halloween movies. That's why Dr. Loomis is called Dr. Loomis because a reference to the guy who actually captures the creep is Loomis. Anyway.
And starring Jamie Lee Curtis, of course, the daughter of Janet Leigh and Tony
Right?
Curtis.
Full circle.
I didn't know.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, I think she starts feeling bad about having stolen the money and is planning to give it back. But it's late, and so she's going to take a shower and go to bed first.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
She's also very excited to take a shower. I thought that was a little weird. Like, she was like giggling when she got in.
She looked, yeah, it was almost like ecstatic, euphoric.
Yeah, it was weird.
I guess, yeah. I mean, if you've been through that kind of day, I guess it's just the small things like feeling some, warm water on your face after being in a terrible rainstorm and running from cops and having that conversation.
Maybe she thought she was out scot-free. She finally quit talking to the weird guy.
It's funny that that's how you interpreted that, Matt, because I'm not going to say I didn't interpret it that way. I got the feeling that maybe she was trying, like, there's an angel and devil on her shoulder. She wasn't sure what she was going to do. We haven't mentioned this, but well, I think I alluded to it. I do like while she's driving the conversation she's having in her head. My favorite is the one where the Texan goes, "What do you mean the money's missing? She was even flirting with me." And she kind of smirks at that. Like, of course I'd flirt with you, you old Texan asshole. Like, I do like how she's kind of this dominant power female. Like, and it's not just the bob haircut and the eyebrows. It's that she's completely in control. And then the movie shifts on her. Like, it's cool because, I mean, you said you saw it coming. I wonder what people in 1960 thought. Because, again, she was the star. The idea that you would kill your star not quite halfway into a movie is a big deal. Because, again, other than Norman, the other people are not actors compared at the same level, at least.
And it's so funny because it puts you as the viewer into the position of like, well, now what? Like, now I thought it was him at this point, which is technically right, but also technically wrong.
Right.
But so you're like in it and you're just as invested as all these other people to figure out the mystery. Like, I think that's really cool. I appreciate any movie that can make you just be in it that much.
Well, and again, like, so this is the difference now between our female podcaster and the rest of us. But, like, the idea that she's going to go take a shower now is so important to everything. Why? When you have a shower, it's supposed to cleanse you. You said she was feeling guilty. Maybe she would return the money. But there's also a baptism here. Like, she's supposed to be cleaning away. Maybe she's going to keep the money. Maybe she realizes that the Texan is an asshole. And she strips naked, which is, again, a very intimate, but, like, not sexy thing. Mm-hmm. She doesn't think she's going to be like, she's not posing. And yet, he removes that thing, and he looks. And that shot of his eyeball might be the most iconic thing other than the house itself. Like, it's truly unsettling in a way. And every time I'm on Reddit or whatever, and someone's in an Airbnb and they're using like a Bluetooth tracker and they're looking for cameras in walls and in like, that's what I think of. Like, there's just the idea of naked like, because again, nudity is not inherently sexy. And yet there's something about voyeurism here. And to Norman, who has no connection with the outside world, this is the most incredible thing. 1960, we've already had someone having lunch. And we're about to see a toilet. And my God, can you imagine seeing a toilet? This is the first toilet to ever appear on a film. And we're not even...
Let's not talk about well, how many times does she get stabbed? I'm sure it's a number that is a known number.
I have seen a lot of movies with stabbings because I like watching horrible, horrible things.
No.
This might be the most terrifying sounds I've ever heard in a movie. Like, truly, like the stabbing sounds.
Yeah, you can hear the...
I wonder how they made that.
I'm sure it was literally like meat? Rocky. Like, someone was in a meat locker with a knife and just...
Yeah.
But the incredible Bernard Herrmann score drops out. We have only the diegetic sound and her giant eyes looking up at us. Dude, and again, she was having a wonderful show. Look, the water pressure was great.
She was very excited.
She's practically singing to herself. La da 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 da. And we just see this and again, this budget is zero.
If I thought anything was missing, it would have been her locking the door and or her looking at the door, thinking about locking it and deciding not to, or something. But I mean, I guess he has a key, he can get in either way.
I'll tell you what though, recently there was a scout trip to Chattanooga, and I stayed with my daughter while my wife went to the aquarium. And the bathroom had no lock on the door. We were just at a standard Marriott. And so if you could get into the bathroom door, it just slid. The hotel room was the lock. And so it's entirely possible that, like, why would you need another lock when you had the external lock? She would not have heard it with the bathroom door closed.
Well, not necessarily the bathroom door, but like you want the female perspective. The female perspective, if you're in a hotel room, is to make frickin' sure the door is locked.
Well, she's already been creeped out by him.
Yeah.
But
So
he probably had the key, or the mom had the key.
Yeah, he definitely had the key because, well, it shows us actually when he gives her the key, you see that there's a duplicate right behind it.
Right.
So they show
Which
us
was
that
the
he has
60s.
the key to get into the room, but I just feel like that would have been an interesting element in the movie to show her either be like, oh, it's fine, like whatever, or to make a point to lock the door because she thinks he's creepy. I don't know.
No, I'm not going to argue with you. I do want to say I like the tightness of the movie because, like, to me, the masterpiece here is there's no external shots. Like, the second you hit play, after the overture kicks in, the movie is like 105 minutes. There's no breath. Like, even here, Janet Leigh is dead. She's slumped over. The chocolate syrup is going down the drain, which I assume is from Alfred Hitchcock's personal chocolate syrup supply. You can have one can. The rest is mine. But, like, they zoom in on her eye because we've just seen his eye looking through the glass. And then the next horrifying line, truly, again, one of the great lines of cinema. Oh, mother, blood.
Yeah.
And again, until you know the twist, you're just like, oh, she's killed a lot. Every time her poor boy's gotten an erection, like, but you know what he does? He runs into the room because the door's been left open, and he goes into a robot mode. He covers his mouth, and then he just starts to scrub.
Yeah.
Like, that might be the most terrifying
That's
thing.
unsettling. You spend a lot of time with him. He's just clinically taking care of business in the bathroom with a straight face, with no expression. That you spend a lot of time with Norman Bates. He's just sort of in, autopilot mode, I guess. He's not there.
And again, I would love. That's why I appreciate you not seeing it before, because in my head, in 1960, people were still shocked by seeing the toilet, and so like
You think they were?
fainted.
You think they saw the toilet and they like missed the?
They fainted when she flushed the paper down the
There's
toilet.
a lot of fainting talk going on. I fainted
miss?
the other night, so that's why
No,
everybody's
it's got fainting
picking
on
on
the
me.
brain.
fainted before too, Keiko.
Me too.
And here's the difference between you and I. You're a lovely
60, 70 pounds.
That's the thing. And so I was having an allergy test, and because I was gonna say you're delightful. That's the wrong way to put it. Because you're a lovely, waifish co-host. I'm probably more like 100 pounds more than you.
I was gonna say,
But I was getting an allergy test where they did the back thing.
Yeah.
And the back thing came up with a couple of false positives. So she's like, I'm going to have to do your arm now. I'm like, fine. And the arm, they draw the grid, and they're like, tick, 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 tick. The first few were fine. Then the second few were a little bit gray.
Less fine.
And then the third, and then I started to collapse. And the woman who was giving me the little test was friend of the show, Lauren's size. And so she was probably at 5 feet even, 110 wet. And I started to fall.
Yeah.
I wake up and there's a dude this guy who looked like a middle linebacker with his hand right on my sternum, holding me against the wall. I'm like, how you doing, buddy? He goes,
Wow.
you got a little lightheaded. I'm like, feel better now, buddy. And he goes, you gonna lie down? I'm like, I will lie down. And since then, thanks to the fact that my blood is about 30% gravy, I've had more blood tests and I've been fine, but I sympathize there.
Yeah.
Well, thinking just about shots that a 1960 audience probably had never seen before. How about, just the close-up on her dead eye. The close-up on, extreme close-up of a drain in a tub with blood going down it.
Well, and
a prolonged
her
shot of that.
Feet and legs were kind of in that shot
Sure.
too, and that's, to me, that scene was actually more scary feeling than the shot of her face. I don't know why.
There had to be a lot of firsts or near firsts for an audience seeing this, right? I mean, I'm just imagining.
Yeah, and like the Hays Code watching this, and there's this razor's edge because like he's mopping the blood out. He's dragged a corpse of, again, your standard blonde bombshell into the hallway.
Do you think the decision to make it black and white might have involved the blood? Like, do you think that
It's possible.
to not make it as shocking, to maybe make it a little more bearable for people? Potentially. Yeah, I could see that.
Possibly. I could also guess, too, it made it more universal because there weren't as many color films, so perhaps it made it feel like something that's always been. If that makes sense, you know, like when you have something that feels like the older style, you know, it's like when someone plays I was thinking of like a Billie Eilish song or something where it just feels like a song from the 80s, where you have something that's got some universality to it, like. And so you have something that feels, or Stranger Things, perhaps, where it's new, but it's also old.
familiar? Yeah,
It's a comfort thing. It's a familiarity thing. Sure, I could see that.
Well, and I just want to add here, too, because Norman Bates is incredible, but after he cleans up everything and puts her in the car, he goes flat affect, right? Like, he just goes, I have to do this again. I know how to do this. And it's process. I do like a movie, like any number of them, where there's process. And he doesn't say a damn thing. Once she dies, we have 15 minutes almost of nothing as he drives that car into the swamp and bothers Swamp Thing once again. Like,
and throws the money away.
because he doesn't care.
Yeah, right, exactly. He doesn't. Does he know? He didn't know what's in the
thought
newspaper.
he didn't know.
He didn't even see.
I thought he didn't know about the money.
Yeah,
Does
he
he
just
not
throws
know?
it in. I think. I thought.
I agree, but also I don't think he's himself.
For sure.
I
He's
think
not
there's
there.
three versions of him.
Yeah.
I think there's charming Norman Bates. I think there's the mother. And I think there's just the automaton that
robot.
kicks
Yeah.
in when
There's
someone is killed.
vacant Norman Bates. Vacancy for sure.
Vacancy of one.
No, vacant Bates, like the vacant
It's really
hotel
good.
room, the other 11 rooms. I think he's just like, I have to get rid of everything she ever touched because it can't exist. And so it just went in the
Make it
trunk
go
with
away.
everything else.
His,
And then Norman Bates is none the wiser.
his
Just like
expression.
an Instagram history. What?
His expression does break, and I don't know. Maybe I'm weird here. Did anyone feel the same
Yes.
thing? You feel you feel a little pang when the car doesn't quite go below the swamp,
Yes.
and he gets a really concerned look on his face, but then it starts to
Then the bubble
blub
comes
blub
out.
blub,
Oh.
and it goes down. He cracks a smile. I'm like, I don't know. I was kind of transported into like his whatever his mindset could be. It's like, oh my god, the panic of having a
Well, Alex
car.
was like, gotta hide the
Oh my
evidence.
god, I gotta get back to the swamp.
But again, at this point, I don't know. I know you know a little bit, but
Yes.
no,
You know a little
sorry,
bit.
I apologize. I didn't mean like that, but you're almost on his side, like covering
Exactly.
up crimes for his mother. Like I sympathize with
Yeah,
this poor
at this-
bastard.
at
Like
this point.
she's the one who's evil. He's trying to save her, and that for that second, he's like, "Oh God, is this going to be the thing that puts her?" Oh God, okay, we're okay.
Because when he comes in, he seems like that he's honestly shocked someone's dead.
Yeah, he has like
Mother the blood.
a response, like he like shrieks.
That mother the bloodline is horrifying. Like, it truly is. Like, the way he delivers it, like, it's very Macbeth. The blood. Oh God, the blood. Is this the knife I see before me? Like, it's remarkable. And then smash cut to a plank of wood. Because I'm sorry, that dude who is the boyfriend, other than apparently having a foot-long dick or whatever, is just not an interesting character.
And they're in the like little like whatever
Like
apothecary
a handyman shop.
diner.
Yeah.
I don't know. It
Hardware
actually,
store.
hardware
I
store.
wrote a note about it because it looks just like this place in my hometown called Bird's Drugs, and it's a pharmacy, but they had a diner in the front of it.
Yeah, why not?
And they made potato salad, and the potato salad had chunks of bread in it, and it was actually really good.
Okay, thank God. Because I'll believe you that chunks of bread are good. If you had said raisins, I'd ask you to leave.
No, it had like shredded white bread.
You see, it's a German potato salad, so it's got raisins in it. You can get the fuck out of my house.
I do have a question though.
Please.
What's the most money that each of you has
Have
held
stolen?
in your hands?
Not anywhere close to 40K, I don't believe.
I don't know. I
gonna
tend
win
not to
this
carry around a lot of
conversation.
cash. I don't carry around a lot of cash.
Maybe $1,000,
Oh,
potentially. Maybe I don't. Maybe not. I don't know.
$36,000.
Okay.
Oh.
you win. Mine was 15,000.
15.
Okay, I want to hear about the circumstances for.
Yeah. Who'd you steal it from, Nick?
So I was the manager of the most busy Walgreens in the state of Georgia. And so we had our lockup, and I had to count the money. And so it was the one on Cobb Parkway, not far from Truist. And so I closed out one night, and I was just, and again, like, that's what it is, but it's all cash. And so it was, God, I've been working as a teacher for 17 years, so it was 18 years ago, but it was about $36,000 in cash. And so it was, dude, the guy came up in the armored truck, and I was counting for days, but it was what it was. Yeah. And why did you meth deal gone bad or
No, I worked for a university in the international department, and I helped with orientation when the international students would first arrive,
And you were
and
picking
collected
pockets
fees.
or,
No, just fees, like normal fees
sure
Yeah.
in cash?
in cash. Yeah, well, they travel with cash at the time.
Sure.
That was normal, and I imagine they just pay everything online now. I would guess, but
Sure, it was euros that they converted to cash, and then they.
But at that time, yes, it was like, $100, $200 each student, and
Sure.
we would have to reconcile it at the end of the day. And the biggest one we ever had was like around 15.
That's a lot of lunch.
Yeah,
A lot of
lot of
lunch.
lunches.
Lot of-
Oh wait, what?
Which lunch?
Yeah, what
kind of lunch are we talking about?
Let's try. How much does lunch at Fogo de Chao cost? How many Fogo de Chaos can you get out of 15 grand?
No, I was thinking more like the Claremont Lounge kind of lunch, but
Oh,
yeah.
or what was the place? It's like Panthers or something.
Oh, the cheetah.
Yeah.
Sex
The
Panther,
cheetah.
It works 50% of the time. It works every time.
What do you know about the cheetah?
I just have heard
Yeah,
things.
I was in there once. It was for a work thing. I worked for a radio station for a little while, and some of the talent tried to buy me a lap dance. I should have done it. How'd we get on this?
You should have done it.
No, I should have let him buy me the lap dance. It would have been a funny story, but they.
I've had one.
I've been a groom's. No,
A
go
lap
ahead.
dance. I've had a
You've
lap
had a lap
dance.
dance?
Yeah.
Good for you.
It was at
Man or woman?
it was a woman.
Yeah, They're better at it, I would imagine.
I haven't had one from a man, so I can't say yet. But
No, I was I've been a groomsman at 12 weddings, and the best man. No, sorry, I've been a groomsman at 15 weddings. The best man 8 times.
Wow.
And so I've had to plan a bunch of bachelor parties, and I've only been to a strip club 3 times for them because we're millennials, man. We don't need to go to strip clubs anymore. But I was at the bar, like, paying for people, coordinating stuff. I wasn't actually thinking about it because, again, the groom is the one who's... And then everyone else conspired behind my back to buy me a lap dance, and it was just awkward for everyone involved.
Yeah, no,
I was
mine...
the one staying sober because I was driving the drunks, and she was someone who was a fairly petite person who had a very distinctly poorly done, like, augmentation, and I was just like, thanks guys, this is great.
Oh, mine
I
was,
might need my first drink.
mine was great, but I didn't purchase mine either. Somebody else did. It was actually at a strip club in Alabama that became famous later for having a mass shooting.
Oh no!
I'm not laughing at that. Well, I am laughing at that, but not your experience.
Yeah.
That's such a funny caveat. Like, because mine would be bad enough if I was like, mine became famous because of a salmonella outbreak for reasons. Like,
Yeah.
yours is like, well, but then a bunch of people
Yeah.
don't, like, I never would have picked that out of a story.
Yeah, it was in the middle of nowhere too. It was very like shocking when that happened.
That's where we are. So Arbogast shows up, which you know, he's sniffing around because we have Janet Leigh's sister and the boyfriend looking for whatever, like trying to figure out where she went.
This is where we get one of my favorite lines
What's
from
your
the movie.
favorite
I think when the investigator's like, "Well, if it don't gel, then it ain't aspic."
Right? Because again, this movie is kind of a noir, and he shows up out of a noir story, and he goes,
Yeah.
"You know what? Toots. You know what? She's probably dead."
Do you guys know what aspic is, though?
No.
No, you asked me about this, but
I texted Walex,
Yeah,
and I told him
and
that
I meant to keep that in mind as I was watching the movie.
You
I
didn't-
didn't clock it when it happened, though.
you didn't. Yeah, it was then. So that was his way of saying that the story doesn't hold. It doesn't hold water or whatever. But aspic is meat jello. It's like you put meat and vegetables in it, and then you can use like the fatty like
Gelatin.
collagen part
Yeah.
of the meat, and it makes meat jello, and it's actually pretty tasty.
Yeah, it's like an old way to say like, you know, nailing Jello to the wall. Like it doesn't
Yeah.
hold up, right?
Yeah. So that's what he's saying. If it don't gel, it ain't aspic. Like, but I was like, oh, aspic.
Yeah, no.
Yum. I'm
Because
hungry.
again, he's come out of a movie from 20 years earlier. Like he goes, you know, Sam, like he should be smoking. He doesn't smoke, but I just want him to be like,
He
I want him
needs
to
a
have
cigar, and he needs some blinds, like shadows of blinds cast across his face.
A, yes, but B, thank God it's black and white because he does kind of always in shadow.
Yeah.
Like, because he shows up at the base motel and he's like, you know, I'm looking for this blonde, and here's her name and her stats. Have you seen her? And he goes, I'm not sure. You know, we got 12 rooms and 12 vacancies. And he goes, can I see? And he's going to sign in. He goes, you see, here's the problem because there's a name here. And we're looking for someone, and there's a name that you forgot. And I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying maybe you've forgotten. And he goes, I change the beds every day just in case someone shows up. He goes, well, maybe I can come with you. And Arbogast here is just, dude. Again, he's out of a different movie, and I kind of love it. It reminds me of previous episode Big Lebowski, where all of a sudden we have the dick, the fellow Seamus show up. And it's another movie. We have someone who actually knows what they're doing in a movie filled with people who are on their own planet. And it's delightful because, again, Norman Bates, calm as a cucumber, making mistakes. He made the same mistakes around her, but we now have someone who's looking for mistakes and he's befuddled, and it's delightful.
Yeah, it was really fun watching him catching him in little
Just
inaccuracies.
lie after lie, omission after omission after
Yeah.
omission.
Yeah,
He's
that was
broken
fun.
down pretty fast.
And it's a good character hiring because Janet Leigh is a beautiful like woman, but she's still shorter than Norman Bates. And Arbogast is almost the same height. Like, I know Janet Leigh was wearing heels, but at the same time, Norman looks down on him the same way he looked down on her. And that makes it more intense because, again, Norman Bates you're not sure what he knows. At what point he's the mother, at what point he's planning, at what point he's the setup pitcher to lead to someone's downfall. And I would argue, watching this, and you watching it for the first time could disagree, and Alex, you've seen it before and you could disagree. I think when Arbogast is killed, that's actually Norman killing him because he's protecting the mother. Right?
But he's still dressed as the mother. Right?
I don't think so.
Here's
Yeah.
the insanity. I don't know.
I don't think so.
That's why it's interesting.
I think that he would lie for her. I think he would, redirect. I think he would do all of that. He's being suspicious, but
Yeah.
I don't think in his mind he commits any of the violence.
Yeah.
So that's my perspective. But we don't know that at this point. As a first-time viewer, you still think it's just the mom. You don't know that it's really him.
Well, and I will say one of the more terrifying scenes in my mind, and again, Matt, you said some of the other movies you've seen are more terrifying. I feel like, to me, this defined horror to me. And when
This
I saw
movie's
this,
very spooky.
whenever I saw it the first time, I was probably late, middle, early high school. This defined horror for me. And then I thought slashers were this, but with more blood. And then I realized that most slashers are less scary than this. This to me is more scary than like a Jason movie.
Yeah.
The later slasher franchise, except for Halloween, I don't think they've many of the Halloween movies are supposed to be funny, but Freddy versus Jason was almost a comedy.
Well, a lot of the Freddy.
The 80s ones, I think, all had kind of comedy elements. But now I'm realizing that's why I guess it was special that Jamie Lee Curtis was in the horror movies, because she's a scream queen and her mom was a scream queen.
And Jamie Lee is one of the greatest of the scream queens, because that first Halloween movie is a masterpiece, and she's shown up in a bunch of them. But the death of Arbogast is incredible. It's very much like the Vertigo falling scenes, because he's at the top of the stairs and he's just like, Mrs. Bates, and then the knife. I think we're established with the knife. And he just falls backwards, flailing down the stairs. And you almost think that's going to be it. The slash across his face appears. And then he lands at the bottom. And then the old lady just comes out with a knife and lands on top of him. And you just imagine there's nothing left of that body. Like, that is... And again, it's funny because the first death we see with Janet Leigh is not subtle, but it's almost like artistic. Like,
This is just get rid of the guy.
no, dude. And when that body is sitting on that other body and there's just, like, that is gruesome. That is a Michael Myers death. That is a Jason Voorhees death.
Yeah. I mean, again, how much slasher type stuff like that had audiences seen at this point?
Well,
I don't understand. Some people are holding their armrests because of a toilet still. So
yeah. And
Well, many of these people probably in World War II, so they probably saw worse.
but
literature at that time was very like graphic and dark, and I mean, I could see many stories that are from the 50s and 60s that are like scary in this way. What's that one that everybody says is like the best book they've ever read?
What do you think? In Cold Blood?
No.
This whole thing is making me think of Truman Capote.
House
or
of
something?
Leaves.
Is
Leaves
that-
of Grass is Walt Whitman. That's not violent.
Brutal
House
collection.
House of Leaves, is that it? It's like a soldier story, but it's like about, I don't remember, but I just
22.
no, not that one, but ones like that though, where there are these very graphic stories being told, but in film, I guess not. I guess.
Well,
it
I've
wasn't
read
there
In
yet.
Cold Blood. In Cold Blood is
Truman Capote's masterpiece.
very it's
Legal
graphic
well,
as
the
hell.
Hays codes existed because for a while it wasn't clear if movies were speech or a product, and didn't whether to have First Amendment protection or not. So it'd be probably easier to get away with books of blood than movies of blood, at least for a while.
I was gonna see if I could find what that book was, but
Do it.
I think it might be House of Leaves.
Oh,
No,
anyway,
that's not it.
so at this point, we have a bunch of dead-faced actors showing up at the sheriff's house, desperately trying to find now both Arbogast and Janet Leigh.
And here's where we get a really good plot twist where he says the mother's been dead for 10 years.
Dun, dun, dun.
And you're like, okay, so then who did the murder? As the viewer, you're like, who did the murdering?
Well, and we'll just say that the old sheriff who shows up, I think, twice in his bathrobe is kind of like, or his smoking jacket, whatever it is. It's just like, we went down to the Bates Motel. There seemed to be a woman up there. You know what's going on? And he goes, oh, Norman found a wife? And he goes, no, it seemed to be an older woman. And he goes,
Norman found a wife? Well, he always was too close to his mother.
And he goes, and then he goes, the wife goes, isn't she dead? Like, I love the wife as the town gossip,
Yeah.
like that old. Anyway, they then apparently go to church with them, or wait outside the church at least, and they're just like, yeah, so we're gonna go. There's people, unless she's been taken out of the cemetery, she's been buried for years. She married some guy from out of town, and they died in a murder-suicide.
Yeah. She got a boyfriend later in life, and it was a murder-suicide. And then he says, well, but if Miss Bates is still alive, then whose body is in the graveyard? And I'm like, oh, we're gonna get a little.
Yeah. I thought for a second there could be another murdered person in there. I didn't.
Right.
I didn't. The exhumation didn't. I didn't remember exactly if that was going to be the case.
Meanwhile, again, I can't emphasize this enough because we need to mention it all the time. The strings are out of control at this point. Like, this is the only score I can think of, and maybe someone will correct us in the comments, but there's no wind instruments at all. It's just strings, and Bernard Herrmann is going absolutely fucking nuts at this point.
Oh, yeah,
like it's. I love this.
Yeah, the
score.
movie is like rolling at this point.
Yeah, the iconic little melodic line that's been sampled in rap songs, and I knew it long before I even had seen any of Psycho. Yeah, the da 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 da. That's unsettling and
Let's open
discordant.
And Matt is right, 100%, that the stabbing overture, I don't know what it's called, might be the most famous. But everything else in this is so good. Bernard Herrmann, I mean, I will say, if I had to rate, in the end, I know I'm a basic bitch. It's fine. You know me. John Williams, who did the other score we're going to talk about tonight, might be better. But Bernard Herrmann, holy shit! Until my buddy Johnny Boy showed up on the scene, like Bernard Herrmann might be the best there ever was. Like truly for movie scores. And as a movie score, there's nothing like Psycho. There's never been anything like Psycho.
Yeah, I think Hitchcock himself said like that I owe a ton of the reception and legacy of the movie to the score. He really recognized it.
You have to say it like you're choking on a McDouble. Like, I will say Bernard Herrmann deserves second billing. Also, have you had this McRib sandwich?
He comes out twice a year.
That's right. They keep taking it away from me, but yet they bring it back.
You sound kind of like Sean Connery there, boy.
That sounded a lot like Sean Connery.
Yes. I'm not in this movie, though.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
If I were playing Arbogast, I would beat his ass.
Arbogast, the way the sheriff says Arbogast does sound racist. That Arbogast fella. I'm just like, guys, gotta calm this down. Anyway, so the end of this is, Sam and her sister looking for shit. And somehow the paper's still in the toilet. And they're like, $20,000.
There's a number here that's been subtracted from 40,000.
That's right.
Yeah.
It proves she's here. And he's like, yeah, well, she stayed in this room. And she's like, oh, yeah.
And her giant buttons.
Oh, but I guess we didn't say that the sister and the boyfriend are there now posing as a couple. and they're staying because the inspector has disappeared, and they're going to try to figure out where he went. The sheriff suspects that the inspector has found the money and run, I guess. And so now they're trying to figure out what's going on.
Yeah. And what's supposed to happen is Sam is supposed to distract Norman, and the sister is supposed to search, see if she can find anything up in the house. And Sam is doing a terrible job because he's just harassing Norman. And while he's harassing, eventually Norman goes, "Wait, where's the girl you're with?" And he goes, "Wait, stay here and talk to me about sandwiches. How dry could they possibly be?" But they run upstairs, and this is where she's looking around, and she finds first the terrifying child's room that Norman lives in, right? Which is filled with dolls and like a single bed and like a turntable that has kids songs in it. And you said Arrested Development earlier, but like this does an incredible job of like saying like, which again, this is directly out of Ed Gein.
Yeah.
Like Ed Gein had a child's room with toys in it. The mother's room was sealed and was exactly the way it was the day she died. Like all of these things are, how do I even put this? The movie is edited so quickly for a movie from 1960. Like there's cuts, there's shots, there's everything. But when she's in these rooms, it slows down. And she's picking up books and she's looking at turntables. And, you know, and we see Norman get really uncomfortable with Sam saying, you know, "Get out of here. I want you to leave. I want you to get out." And he even stutters. And she's up there being deliberate in a way. It's remarkable. I don't even know how else to put it. But around here is when he realizes, Norman realizes that something's amiss, right? And Sam immediately gets knocked out because Sam might be the biggest loser in the whole movie.
And Nick's like, "Good."
I don't like the character. And again, Hitchcock said he acted like a plank of wood, which is kind of right. But at the same time, I like the idea that this is a woman-forward movie. A woman gets killed, but also a woman solves and figures out the crime. Right? But I will tell you, that scene, I talked to when I saw it with my buddy Michael Krause. You know, Michael. We watched it, and then his dad said when he saw it, he was afraid to shower, so he made sure to like wash in a way that soap never got in his eye. Like for
I
whatever.
feel like for our generation, that was The Ring.
Possibly.
Was it The Ring, or was there another one that was at the same kind of time frame where there was like a hand that came out of the back of somebody's head, like a ghost hand?
I mean, The Ring has that. I don't know if that's what
In
you're
the
thinking
shower?
of. Yeah.
But I think it was a little boy in that movie. I know The Ring is
Got me
a little
swinging.
girl.
Drawing a blank. Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
There's a There is a scene in, I think, Scream where someone gets stabbed through a shower curtain as well.
Yeah, no, for me it was like ghost monsters that I was afraid of.
Well, if
in the
you're
shower.
talking ghosts, you might be talking The Ring, so I'll give you that. But I will say that scene where she discovers the mother, spoiler at this point, but she walks into the fruit cellar, and we've seen the scene already where Norman is like, "Mother, while the heat's on, I'm going to take you to the fruit cellar." He goes, "No, I don't want to go to the fruit cellar. I want to stay up here." And he goes, "You're going to stay in the fruit cellar." And you see him taking this thing downstairs. And when she discovers this, the fact that, I mean, the masterpiece is in the lighting. She opens the door. There's this one bare light bulb hanging from the cord. And it's so bright, it whitewashes out the background. She walks past it. The white balances off completely. And she's just saying, "Mrs. Bates, Mrs. Bates." She puts her hand on the shoulder. It swings around. And we get another one of my favorites, a skeleton movie. We finally get another skeleton movie. She screams, and then all of a sudden, Norman in a wing has the biggest knife I've seen outside of a Crocodile Dundee movie. Holy shit snacks.
That's a knife.
That is a knife.
She had that. He got a knife.
Matt, can you do a Crocodile Dundee?
Crikey.
That's not a knife. This is a knife.
There you go.
That's
Nailed
pretty
it.
good. I knew you could.
I knew you could.
He's-
Hey,
That's not a transvestite. He's a guy who was abused by his mother.
and you know what?
That's the whole last of the third of the movie.
Yeah.
That's an impersonation of a hero. You've done it. We're good. Right?
He's a good guy.
That's a good guy.
Crikey, I'm the crocodile hunter too. I can do that.
R.I.P.D. the Crocodile Hunter. Anyway, we don't see how she manages to stop Norman Bates, but smash cut.
I was
to
under.
a
I was in the
sanitarium.
impression the boyfriend wasn't as dead or knocked out as they thought, and he comes up on him from behind.
Well, she does grab the knife from him. And I do, if that's the case, Matt, I'm glad it's not in the movie because then she gets to be the hero. I like that she is the heroine at the end of this because then we smash cut to the, I guess at the time they called it the asylum, right?
Yeah.
But then we have the guy who, with his hands in his pocket and a cigarette, goes, I got the confession from the mother. You mean Norman Bates? No, the mother. You see?
Well, no, he says no and yes.
But I just love that he's having a parlor scene for himself. Yeah. And it's delightful.
And they don't use the term multiple personality disorder, even though you'd think that's what this would be.
But I don't think that existed yet. There's a book that turned out to be mostly a fraud. But it was about this woman who claimed to have 16 personalities. And I think that was later in the 60s.
I remember seeing a movie. I think I watched it for a psychology class called "The Three Faces of Eve," which I think was a pretty
When the
famous
Rabbit
movie,
Howls?
maybe in the 50s. What? When the Rabbit Howls.
When the Rabbit Howls.
Three Faces of Eve is 1957.
57. Okay.
When the Rabbit Howls is a very good example of a super disturbing book from like the 60s. I'm guessing it's 60s.
Yeah. Anyway.
It's about multiple personalities.
I mean, and there's a few. I think the big one is a book called Sybil,
Oh,
right.
Sybil.
Yeah, it's another.
which is a woman with like 16 personalities by Flora Schreiber, and I feel like that's a book that is now considered very outdated, and that's 1973. But regardless, I like that they take time to explain this at the end, though I imagine at the time it was very odd for a movie. But he goes like, he's keeping the illusion of his mother being alive. Everyone's listening, like the audience is. And to punctuate his point, as you would in 1960, he lights a cigarette. I imagine it's a Marlboro Unfiltered. But I will say, the last two shots are the best. Because we have Norman wrapped in a blanket, but the voice is not Norman anymore. It's the mother. And he goes like, it's the hardest thing in life for a mother to turn in her child. But it had to be done. He was a dangerous person. And now you've lost any sense of reality. Like, you're floating in outer space. But my favorite bit here is there's a housefly, and it lands on his hand, and it goes, you know what? I'll let the fly be here, because then they'll say she wouldn't even hurt a fly. Like, and again, it's in his stare. It's in his smile. It's in this terrifying old woman voice. They're watching me now. Let them watch.
Yeah, now he's got the creepy smile.
I'm not
The iconic smile.
It's one of the
that we've all
greatest shots
seen.
in cinema.
His
because
face
he's
is so
looking
dark.
down,
Oh yeah, there's the
looks
shadows.
up, and he smiles. And then the last shot, as they cut to a skeleton. By the way, if you watch this again, which all of you will watch it again, as he's smiling, they cut just for a frame, like we're watching Fight Club, of the skeleton mother's face smiling. But the last shot, literally the last shot, is them pulling the car out because it was never about the money. Everyone was wrong about the money. Fucking phenomenal. Like, I will say, all these movies are masterpieces. I don't know what your favorite movie... We'll ask at the end, when we're done with the month, we'll ask. This might be my favorite movie that he did. This is a masterpiece in ways. I'll go first this time, just because I never go first. But this movie is good for all the reasons that we've mentioned. The score is unparalleled. All of you know the twist, hopefully, before you listen to this. If you have not, I apologize. But everyone references it because it is so good. The shots are good. And if you are a writer or a filmmaker, watch this movie because it is efficient. There's no extra dialogue. There's no extra shots. There's no extra anything. This is the trimmest piece of lean pork you've ever had. And for that, it is delightful. I saw it once on the biggest screen in Atlanta, the Fox Theater, which is a beautiful old theater. And you can see the grain of the film. I bought this in 4K to rewatch it. I will love this movie until the day I am long in the grave because it is a masterpiece. I'll take the first timers last. Alex, tell me what you've seen.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you haven't seen it, of course, and you watch it, you'll just see so much of the iconic images and themes that have just been pervasive in movies, all kinds of movies, especially the horror genre since this came out. It's just the origin of so many things that you just kind of take for granted as a movie watcher. I mean, it's quite it's a ride. Like you said, it is so efficient. Things just turn so quickly. I mean, like the first half of the movie, she's the protagonist. You're invested in her story. Oh, no, wait. No, we're switching it up. And she's gone by the middle. It's quite something. It'll certainly be up there near the top of the Hitchcock movies I've seen. Maybe after we do this month, it might be up top. We'll see.
I was pleasantly surprised by it again as my second Hitchcock film. It was good. I mean, just good. It was really cool seeing the origin of so many other references again in this movie, where you can see a scene and you're like, oh, okay, so this is like where this trope originated of this, shabby motel, like the shabby motel with the creepy owner. This is it, It was also really cool for me seeing the way it's filmed and the way the scenes are so intentional. Like you feel every camera shot, every angle, every effect. And I like the word that I think of when I think of it. This is not the right word, but I think it's clunky. It's not clunky. It's just, I guess, the first time anyone ever did this thing. Yeah. And now movies are just doing these things left and right, following the style, doing the things that he did. And so that maybe they do feel more natural because it's not the first time they were ever done.
Maybe the word you're looking for is blunt.
Maybe. I don't know. But it's not clunky.
I
but I'm like, it's sparse and But just really cool to see some of these things like when he is at the top of the stairs and he falls backwards and that like, the word for this when it goes whoop.
It's called a Hitchcock zoom, literally.
and
so the way he does this. So what happens is he's on a dolly and he's moving towards the subject, but he's zooming out. So the subject, It's
so
called Hitchcock zoom.
That is so cool to see in an old movie where like we've talked about this before. I think we talked about this in Robin Hood when we talked about an arrow and filming on an arrow and just like how complicated that is. And you don't think about these things as somebody who's not making movies. So it's just really cool to see some of these things where you're like, oh, this was when this thing was created. So I think that's really cool. Very cool. I feel like if you're like me and you were hesitant to watch because you think it's like birds staring at people creepily, this one wasn't that. I haven't seen the birds. That's probably what that one is. But it's really good.
Watch old movies, man.
For sure.
Because again, there's no digital effects here because digital didn't exist.
I will say, I think out of the two, I liked Vertigo a little bit more than this one.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that at the end. Matt, final thoughts.
I didn't really like Psycho that much. I mean, it maybe would have been better if they interconnected. Maybe they intercut, the private detective going looking for Janet Leigh, and everything builds towards the her murder, and then the murder of Arbogast, instead of just like the thirds thing.
Sure.
But I mean, if you want, to watch it for the historical value or film techniques and the soundtrack, go for it.
So, thank you, everyone. I will give you this. This is the first of a whole Hitchcock month. We've already alluded to one, Vertigo, which is next week. But we are doing Psycho, obviously, Vertigo, North by Northwest, Rear Window, and the 39 Steps. And here's the thing about all of them. North by Northwest was voted by the BFI to be the greatest film ever made. It's in the top 5 by the AFI as well. Psycho is the #1 thriller ever made, according to AFI. And I believe Rolling Stone. Psycho is one of the greatest movies ever made by more than a dozen people, including me. Not the greatest, but one of the greatest movies ever made. And so next week, tune into Vertigo, followed by North by Northwest, followed by Rear Window, and followed by the 39 Steps, which is a previous episode, which was only on our Patreon for a while, which is now long gone. So we'll be unlocking that for you before we take the month of June off. So thanks, everyone, and stay a little bit thrilling, everyone.
Myopia Movies is a podcast production of Dude Letter Podcasting and is produced by Nick Hoffman. It is edited by Nerdtranet and Daniel Suttis and is hosted by Nick Hoffman, with production assistance by Matthew Quinn, Daniel Suttis, and Nerdtranet. The theme song is Surf Shimmy by Kevin MacLeod from incomptech.com. Licensed under the Creative Commons by Attribution 4 license, Creative Commons /licenses by /4.0. Thanks.